What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. We continue with our 2023 schedule preview projected record series. Duke is up next, and normally Duke is a team that we do at the very end of this thing. You know, you're usually Duke and Kansas and Vanderbilt. You know, you've got your last teams in the Power Five. But no, Duke now a very respectable team coming into this year. And it's not that they just had an easy schedule or the ACC was down. They were in every game that they played. They didn't get blown out by anyone. This was a good team last year. They went 9-4, and here is the record. They were 8-4 in the regular season, won their bowl game. And you look at this team this year coming back, they've got a lot coming back. So this is legitimately, potentially a top 25 team. But is the schedule going to give them a chance to be a top 25 team at the end of the year? Well, they open up with Clemson. That's a Monday night game. They're going to be really, really fired up for that one. If they could win that game, I mean, think about what that could do for this program. It'll be tough, though. Clemson, obviously, still a top program, maybe the team to beat in the ACC, although some people may be jumping on the Florida State bandwagon, but we'll see how that plays out. But, yeah, that's going to be a tough game, but Monday night, they'll be fired up, playing at home. You never know. Lafayette the next week on September the 9th, or actually, it's the next week, but it's a quick turnaround there after playing on a Monday. The next week as far as college football goes, but technically those games are in the same week. Northwestern on September 16th. That'll be a home game. Then it's on the road at UConn September 23rd. UConn was a surprise team last year as well. Maybe that game could be pretty good. Then they'll play Notre Dame at home on September 30th. They get a bye week after that, so a bye week after Notre Dame, before NC State, and really a pretty tough stretch here, a really tough stretch. Look at the schedule after their bye week, and if you want to ignore the bye week, just look at the schedule starting with Notre Dame. So they have NC State on October 14th. That'll be a home game. Then it's back-to-back road games. They'll go on the road to play Florida State, then on the road to play Louisville. Then they get a high-powered Wake Forest offense at home. I think that's a Thursday night game. So they get 2 weeknight games at home. That'll help them out. Then they get North Carolina after that on the road, November 11th. Then another road game at Virginia on November 18th. They close things out with Pittsburgh at home. So, yeah, it's a pretty tough schedule. And you'd rather have divisions if you're Duke, because then you probably don't have to wind up playing. Well, you don't. You wouldn't play Clemson and Florida State. That just wouldn't happen if they had it. If they had the old schedules and still had the divisions. So, yeah, having to play the 2 best teams out of what used to be the Atlantic Division plus NC State, so maybe the 3 best teams out of that side, and go even further to Louisville and Wake Forest. Yeah, this is a tough schedule. Tough schedule in the ACC. Then you throw in Notre Dame and Northwestern in the non-conference. Very respectable schedule for Duke, that's for sure. The ACC schedule is going to be tough. You know, they don't play Miami. I mean, is that the only good news? And who knows, Miami may not be any good anyways. They really got a tough draw in the ACC. And like I said, playing Notre Dame and then also having another Power 5 opponent, Northwestern. Really, really tough schedule. So Duke might actually be one of the best 25 teams this year if everything goes well for them. But the schedule may keep them from being a top 25 team, or at least being in the top 25 rankings at the end of the season. But let's give you a record projection here. So this is a scale that we'll be using. If it's in white, it's a 50-50 game. That's a game that I think the spread will be less than a touchdown. Under 20, over 80, those are games where I think the spread will be 20 or more. In the orange and the blue, those are games where I think the spread will be 10-19. And then 30-39, 61-70, those are games where I think the spread will be about a touchdown, 6, 7, 8 points. And so for Duke, we start with the easy win. There's only one of them. Lafayette, I think that's a guaranteed win. That one's probably close to 95, maybe even closer to 99%. Duke absolutely should win that game, and it should not be a challenge at all. And then we'll go to Northwestern and UConn. Northwestern, boy, they're a mess right now. And if you look at just the overall talent on this roster, not really much reason for optimism for Northwestern, so I don't think that'll be a challenge. Duke at home should be favored by a couple of touchdowns. UConn on the road, you know, maybe not a 20-plus point favorite for Duke, because UConn did turn out to be pretty decent last year, and it is on the road, but I think they'll be favored by a couple of touchdowns. So as far as the projection goes, you can count those 3 games as wins. I think Virginia we can put here in the 61 to 70% range. I think they'll be favored, but maybe by double digits. It's hard to say, especially if they struggle in that gauntlet from Notre Dame to North Carolina and they lose most of those games, then they're probably not going to be favored by a ton in this game. But if they get on a roll and they are ranked, then they'll probably be favored by double digits here, because I don't expect Virginia to be very good. But it is on the road, and so yeah, that's why I'm going to put this game in the purple. Again, maybe it's a game that winds up in the blue, but for now we'll put that one in the purple. Always, when I do these projections, I always go more conservatively if there's a question. How about Clemson, Notre Dame, Florida State? These are all games where I think Duke is going to be about a touchdown underdog, and maybe I'm giving them too much credit. They might be double-digit underdogs in all these games. Again, I'm just basing this off the fact that Duke was, they finished to be about a top 25 team last year, not quite in that top tier of the ACC, but really, you could say Duke was in the second tier, and so because of that, we're going to put these games in the yellow. Again, this is a Duke team that I'm viewing as a good team going into next season, because that's how they finished last year, and they've got a lot coming back. Clemson and Notre Dame at home, Florida State on the road. That'll be very, very tough, obviously. I had Notre Dame in the orange originally because I was viewing Notre Dame as an elite team this year, right up there in the top 6, 7, 8 teams. Now with the coordinator, a new offensive coordinator and all that, maybe they don't quite get into that top tier. So I did make a change. If you watch the Notre Dame video and you're trying to figure out why this game is now in the yellow, I don't know if it would really change the projection of either team. But I think that these 3 teams, Clemson, Notre Dame, and Florida State, really should all be viewed in the same tier, and that's why I've got them all in the yellow. You can make an argument for Florida State. Maybe they should be in the orange because it's on the road. But we'll leave it here in the yellow. And then you've got NC State, Louisville, Wake Forest, North Carolina, and Pittsburgh. I think these are all 50-50 games. These are all teams that are going to be near the bottom of the top 25 or just outside the top 25. Wake Forest, how good are they without Sam Hartman? Perhaps Duke should be favored by more in that one. But again, we're going conservative here. This is just a projection based on the schedule, not a prediction or anything like that. And just going conservatively, I think you can put all these games in that 50-50 category. Sure, some of them, the spreads might be 6 or 7 points, but it's hard to say right now. So we're going to call them all 50-50 games, which means Duke, they have an opportunity. If they can win some close games, beat some teams that are pretty even with them, they could have a really good year once again. But these are not going to be easy wins, and if they lose several of these games, they could drop back down and maybe even miss a bowl game. But when you average it all out, you count the blue and green games as wins. We use 35% for the yellow, 65% for the purple, and 50% for the white. You get 7-5. So that's the projection for Duke. Not quite as good as last year, again, because this schedule is much, much more difficult. But I think this team probably is better than the team from last year. But that's why you do these projections. This just show that the projections can kind of show how difficult the schedules are. And Duke has a really, really tough schedule in 2023. But projected to go 7-5. That's what the numbers show here for Duke in 2023.